I was raised in a church, and I was at Sunday school every week, and I had my own Bible, and I read it, and I remember praying the sinner's prayer when I was in Sunday school, but I never really felt like it was my own. I felt like I was doing things that my Sunday school teacher told me, what my mother told me, what my pastor told me. I never really felt a sense of ownership, and as I got older and I was more engrossed into school, I realized that there was another side of the coin, and there were people at school telling me what I should or could and can do. And during my early adolescent years, I really felt this pull because I was trying to find something that was my own. And I realized that when I got older, that I had a choice whether or not I could go to church, and I was like, okay, I choose not to go because there were other things I could be doing because I was still searching for something that was mine. And it wasn't until I was coming into high school and I really had no sense of identity. Because I was trying to be everything to everyone, trying to please everyone I could. I still was trying to keep my family happy by trying to be a good person, but I was also trying to keep my friends happy who wanted me to be not so much. And it wasn't until someone who outside of my family generally took an interest in what I was doing to my own life did I truly realize the size of the gaping hole that was in my heart. And in hindsight, I realized that when I was searching for something that was my own, I was trying to fit something into my heart that would complete it and fill it, and I had yet to find that. And when I realized that this person and this couple that was taking interest in me growing up, I realized that they were interested in me finding that peace too. That really meant a lot to me. And when I came back, they invited me to come with them to a youth group, and I realized that that hole in my heart was the perfect shape of Jesus. And I had always known that answer, but like I said before, it wasn't mine. It wasn't my answer. It was an answer that someone was telling me. But until I realized that it was my answer and that Jesus fit that shape, I realized that there's nothing better than truly being what God had intended you to be in the first place. And that took years to find. It took years to find, but only until someone was encouraging me to be who I really am, to be true to myself, that's when I realized the severity of my situation. I needed Jesus to fill that hole. It was the only person who could fill that. The blueprint is important to me. It's important to us as a church because we see this crisis in America, and I feel like I experienced this crisis firsthand, where we're in a church setting and we learn the truth that's spoken in the gospel, that Jesus is the way, and He's the way to heaven. He's the person who we model our lives after. And we realize that truth, but we have no idea where to start. And most of the time, the person who brings us there, it's a sad reality, but most of the time, the person who brings us there is not necessarily invested in seeing out that process. When I grew up in the church, I felt like, in hindsight, it was the church's responsibility to teach me how to live. And when a church is responsible for that, there can be problems, and you might not know specifically for you where to start. And I feel the blueprint's important because it gets a person who doesn't know too much about Scripture, because a lot of the times that's the people that this book is for. They get to a point where they're saved and they want to know what's next specifically for them. So they can get into the blueprint and they can understand, okay, in God's perfect book, here's what happened, here's why we need Jesus, here's the response afterwards. So I feel like it's important for a believer to establish their faith on those building blocks before they can continue to grow and prosper. When it's all said and done, the chapter out of the blueprint that I feel is the most important to me, the chapter that was the most groundbreaking for me, was absolutely chapter 8, the chapter entitled The Not So Sunday Church. And I realized that if I truly want to be a Christian, a Christ follower, yes, it's important for me to be in a church where I could grow and learn and be with people and do church the way it can be done. But for me, in the church I feel called at now, where I'm on a board of directors and I'm a worship director, and I feel myself physically breaking a sweat each and every day that I'm here, I wouldn't have it any other way. And that's the reason why the Not So Sunday Church chapter is so important to me. Because while in America there are many churches where you can go and you can sit and you can enjoy and you can relax because everything else is run smoothly, I now know that there are people behind the scenes, there are people that are dedicated to the cause of Christ that are making these things happen. And if I had the choice to sit in a comfortable pew and listen once a week, or if I had the choice to be a part of the change, to be a part of the church, to be a part of the movement, and to break a sweat for Christ, I would not go back. I'm so thankful God called me to where I am today. I'm thankful for where I was. I'm thankful for the church that taught me to live like this, but I'm so thankful now that I'm in a church where I can put my faith into action, where I can reach the streets, where I can, listen, being a worship director and hearing an impoverished community lift their voices to Christ, I wouldn't have it any other way, regardless of how hard it is, regardless of the commitment that it takes. I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm thankful that I get to break a sweat every week, every day for Christ. This whole book comes down to the last chapter. The last chapter in the blueprint talks about the Great Commission. The last words that were said by Jesus to his disciples on earth in person was a command for them and then ultimately for us to go out into the world and continue his work. And his work was to go and to baptize and to teach. I think the blueprint is important, and I think the Great Commission is important because it's really challenging me as a believer to not only go and spread the gospel like we've been told, but to see through their conversion, to see through them being baptized, and to see through them getting these first official building blocks. Because it's not about us just bringing them to church and releasing them. If we truly care about them and we want to see them grow and to have their life changed, if we have the answer inside of us, we've got to make sure that we're walking with them. And that's how I'm challenged by the last chapter. I was very good growing up when I first became saved to spread the word. But was I good at seeing it through? Was I good at being their lifeline when they need help in their first few weeks or months of this walk? It's very hard walking for God in this day and age. And without an established believer walking side by side with someone who's just starting, that person who's just starting isn't going to have much of a chance. I am the unmoved movement.